doing that which we think we cannot do. I mean, I don't know. Isn't that what life's about?
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Monday Motivation. I'm here today with a tremendous guest who I met very recently, a lady by the name of Rose McCarty. You're in Las Vegas right now?
I'm in Las Vegas.
What are you doing that's causing you to travel from city to city and find yourself in Las Vegas right now?
I crazily kind of came up with this whole initiative, running 1,000 miles in 2 months to raise awareness for at-risk youth.
Why do you run for other people?
The purpose of my life is making a difference in the lives of others. I came from less than desirable upbringing. It's a hard topic for me to discuss. I was a child of abuse and neglect and abandonment. I had to overcome a lot. This whole mission in and of itself was a little bit of me pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, but also me fulfilling a lifelong dream where I always said that I wanted to make a difference in the world. I want youth to know that no matter what they're faced with, what they're dealing with, they can accomplish anything that they put their minds to. One of the healthiest life skills that they can learn in going through this is not just academia or working hard, but also physically taking care of yourself. And whether that's running or playing basketball or football or soccer or whatever it is, some type of sport is incredibly important because it's a healthy way for you to better yourself physically and mentally, in my opinion. So more often than not, children that have been victims of whether it be abuse, neglect, homelessness, basically anything that classifies under at-risk youth, oftentimes, and stats support this, they have a really hard time opening up. More often than not, they're educated or internally they feel as though they should live this life to put up this image as though they didn't come from that background because that's the only way they'll be accepted. I never wanted people to know the hardship that I had gone through, what I actually came from. I mean, most people thought that I came from, my parents paid for me to go to college and I came from this like picture perfect background, and because I didn't want to get the dreaded questions. What are you doing for the holidays? Or, how are your parents? Or how are this? It was funny. I found the more put together of an image, like as far as that I came from this pristine upbringing I had, the less questions I got asked. And I want people to know that shouldn't be the standard. That shouldn't be the norm. We all have a story, and I don't care whether you come from the most amazing upbringing or you come from one of the worst. It's just important that we can be our true, most authentic selves. And
when you start a project, you go out super strong and you don't stop. Why do you push harder even as you get closer to the end?
I'd rather collapse across the finish line knowing that I gave it 110% than knowing that I held back because I was afraid. You never know who you're going to influence when you're doing these types of things. Maybe there's going to be one day, one time that there's one person who sees me that is like, wow, she really, really gave it her all. And I want to know why. Maybe I can have a conversation and maybe I can make an impact on their life.
You told me about how you met your husband, and a great story. It's obvious that you two are just madly in love with one another. What is your piece of advice on love?
I think at the end of the day, someone who not only loves you but is supportive of you and all your crazy decisions, and they're with you every step of the way, and you don't need all the big fancy things. If you want those, that's okay. But make sure that when you love someone, it's for like the raw, like individual, authentic pieces. If you ever feel you have to change yourself for someone, then it's probably not going to be the right fit. And it should be the same for them. You shouldn't ask them to change themselves either.
If you could tell the world one thing, what would that be?
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You must stop and look fear in the face, and you must do that which you think you cannot do.
Tell me the most important lesson you've learned from a failure in your life.
Ego, and the fact that, when I was young and failing, I think my ego was definitely higher. So it was very much not wanting to admit that I had made the failure. So learning to admit and accept your failures, but quickly learn from it versus making excuses or pointing fingers. I would say later in life, patience. I think that too often I've been too focused on the finish line and not focused on the journey.
How important is money to you?
It's never been my key motivator. I believe that money provides freedom, but I don't believe money buys happiness. What I do like about money is the fact that it provides me the freedom to be able to travel the world and meet people that I would never normally have the privilege to be able to meet.
Advice do you have for people who are struggling to try to be happy?
Once you're true to yourself as far as like what your aspirations are in life, like what you want, like what gets you out of bed, like excited every single morning and not doing it for someone else, then you can truly start to let people into your life that make a difference, make a positive impact. Even if they're different than you. Different is always good, in my opinion, but you have to be true to yourself first.
If you could have dinner with one person throughout history, who is it and why?
Anne Frank. I think that there's a lot of challenges, wisdom, insight that very few people in this world would ever be able to provide.
What makes a person successful in today's American business environment?
I think the biggest thing comes down to hunger, determination, and making sure that you're doing something that you love.
I believe you are different than most people. One thing that I keep coming back to with you, Rose, is work ethic. How does it work? It seems like you're always working some way.
So I have recently learned that sleep is important. When I was putting myself through school, I was working anywhere from 4 jobs or a full-time job plus a second job plus taking 27.5 credit hours, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. Literally for 3 years of my life, I never slept in a bed. I slept in an armchair and I had multiple alarms. I don't even know what a standard work schedule is. That's just me. I work until I know that I can get the job done. I just like to be a lifelong learner. From the moment I hit the grounds and I have my first cup of coffee, coffee is super important to me. You don't want to experience me without coffee. But after that, then yeah, it's game on all day. I believe that life's too short to sit around.
How do you overcome and go through conflict?
From a personal standpoint, I don't go into any type of situation looking at it just with one single lens. I like to look at it from all lenses, and I have my personal core belief.
Do you play an instrument or anything like that, or sing, or?
If I could play an instrument, the one instrument that I would love to play more than anything in the world would be the violin.
Thanks for joining us for Monday Motivation. This is Rose McCarty. You can find out more about her at runroserun.com.
It's been a heck of a day.
Tell me about day one. Take me from the start to now.
I started off with me throwing up multiple times.